Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck design video. Today I'm going to be re-uploading the most recent version of my Lyzolda / Worldgorger Dragon deck. In my previous video I was essentially showing what I was running. I also completely forgot to mention the importance of a few lands. The irony is if you go back further in my channel to my old Bladewing videos, I even talk about how important those lands are. But I'm going to show my current list now, and then I will most likely just remove that old video. So I will go ahead and also at the end of this video explain some very important interactions and how the combo works, if you are unfamiliar with Worldgorger Dragon. I actually may need to explain that ASAP, because if you don't know why you're watching the deck. Okay, I'll show it first. The deck here is piloted by Lyzolda the Blood Witch. She is a 1 black-red for a 3/1 human cleric. She is of the Rakdos guild. There is a theme I have forced onto this deck. While I have optimized the deck to the best that I think it can be currently run at, I am restricting myself to a theme because this combo feels like it would be the Rakdos combo. So in this deck I have included as many cards with the Rakdos watermark that I felt were still playable. This is also one of my current pet decks that I am in the process of pimping out. And I have gone so far as to even get custom sleeves made for the Cult of Rakdos. So Lyzolda is the pilot. The reason she is the pilot, there's a very specific reason. She can pay 2 colors, sack a creature. If it is black, I get to draw a card. If it is red, she deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So for example, if I somehow had infinite black and red mana, I can continually sack herself to herself and shock the opponents to death in the process of drawing my entire deck. So, the quickest way to get infinite black and red mana in this format is by using an old combo called the Worldgorger Dragon combo. This combo utilizes these cards. There are duplicates of the enchantment here, but in short, uses 1 dragon here. The dragon is 6 mana for a 7/7 Nightmare Dragon with flying and trample. Beautiful stats, but if you're attacking, something terrible has happened. Because when he enters the battlefield, you remove everything that you control except him. And then when he left the battlefield, then you get everything back from exile. So how this works, put him into your graveyard somehow, then you reanimate it with an enchantment. The enchantment that reanimates the creature is attached to the creature. So for when he comes into play, he's going to exile this enchantment. When the enchantment goes away, he is then gone back to the graveyard, which returns the enchantment, retarget, and it keeps on going infinitely. What you are not seeing here is all my other permanents in play are also being flickered in and out of play, including my lands, so I can then generate infinite mana. The trick to this combo, there's a few tricks to it. You have to have some way of instantly winning, because if you cannot break this combo, if there's no other creature in your graveyard, you have technically made a stalemate, one of the few ways of making a stalemate in this game. So if you don't have an instant burn spell in your hand, or in this deck, some lands, there's other ways to, like Staffin' In used to be in the deck because it's a permanent that can burn for 1. There's other ways of also this terribly backfiring. If someone bounces this at the prime time of when this triggers on the stack, he will not be in play to see that trigger. So you have just exiled your entire board. Just kill it or bounce it in response to the first trigger. I am essentially out of the game. But this is a combo that could potentially go off on turn 2. And it has a few times. I do not have a lot of mana burst spells in the deck. I don't think they're reliant enough for this type of combo, even though it's really fun. But this is the primary combo of the deck, is getting this in the graveyard, and getting a reanimation spell, getting infinite mana, doing something with mana, maybe killing people with my lands. If she's out or have another creature reanimate, just burn them out with her. A few ways to do that. So she is the optimal general for this combo deck. Let's get her over here, and I'll go through the rest of the cards. Or we'll go over here. There's a few creatures in here. Coffin Queen is a fun one. She cannot interact with this combo because she does not have haste, and I would need a sack outlet, things like that, but it's really good early game disruption. 3 mana for a 1/1. I can choose not to untap her, or I can pay 3 to tap and reanimate a card for as long as she remains tapped. Have to be careful if she dies or is left play. Some things may be exiled. This is again early game disruption to bait out removal. Same thing, Graveborn Muse, just early game, not really early. 4 mana, and this deck is kind of high. This is here just to draw more cards. Same thing, draw more cards. There's a few janky creatures coming up, a lot of big creatures, so that's kind of why he's here. If I am a very bad position and I cannot cycle my Worldgorger Dragon, but I can reanimate it and hold it 4 mana, I can at least get some cards out of it. Corpse Connoisseur is our very first tutor in the deck. This helps us put a creature from my graveyard, or my deck, into my graveyard. It's a very expensive Entomb, but I'd rather have Entomb, but this may be necessary as a backup plan. And it can block things, of course. Bloodgift Demon is also very slow for what this deck is trying to do. He is just another filler. It is the 3rd Phyrexian Arena effect. Carnival Hellsteed. This is where my theme of the Rakdos watermark is carrying over. This is just a generic first strike beater. He may be on defense. He may just be crashing in for some damage early. Same thing. Sire of Insanity is a generic threat. You usually want to play this to bait out spot removal so that you can then go off next turn with your dragon, because a lot of people don't want to dump their hands. If you have some kind of tutor effect you can recur, of course you can set up your combo very easily with him. But he's here mainly because of that Rakdos watermark. Same thing, early game threat, well, not early game. This is a generic threat, something that can help you stay in the game by bleeding out your opponents. Another tutor, a very expensive tutor. He's usually going to be reanimated somehow. This is another card that baits out removal because it generates a board presence out of nowhere. This one card can get you about 3 cards. And usually in this format, you're going to get some extra enter the battlefield tricks. So this is just one card that's really good at expending opponent's resources trying to deal with this one card. Let's go on to the spells. There's quite a bit of tutors here. Again, this is a combo deck, so we want to tutor and get our essential pieces. We have a vampire tutor and a demonic tutor, the 2 hard tutors. Insidious Dreams is a very tricky tutor. I will reiterate how this works at the end of the video, but it's an instant for 4 mana, and as an additional cost, I discard X cards. Then I essentially vampire tutor X cards, putting them from my deck on top in any order. This is typically not so good unless you want things in your graveyard, but if you're playing red, then you have access to Wheel of Fortunes, which also means that you could miracle. You could literally set up a Reforge the Soul grip, like an entire grip of cards with this one tutor. Again, you have to be careful. The additional cost of discarding happens before someone can counter this. You have to discard, so if someone goes and counters the spell after you discard, you may be shit out of luck. But it's really good. Increasing Ambition is a flashback tutor. I almost have never had to flash this back. If you're flashing it back, I would imagine you're in a very late game. Here's a discard outlet. There's a lot of really clever cards you can include in a Worldgorger Dragon deck where you want him in the graveyard. This lets you actually discard the dragon if you have it in your hand. Then you can just go tutor for one of his reanimation spells. But this is a buyback tutor where you discard 2 cards and put it back in your hand. Can be really situationally good. This may end up just being a 5 mana tutor though. Dark Petition is fantastic. I have a gigantic number of spells in this deck. I will almost always have Spell Mastery, so getting that mana to recast or cast the Necromancy or Animate Dead I just tutored for is fantastic. Entomb is our 1-drop that we really like seeing in a game where we have something like this on turn 2. This will just put the dragon straight from our deck into our graveyard. This can also be good with a Crucible of Worlds package if you need a fetch land. It's just a generically good card. I don't have a Crucible for this deck. It may actually be a good inclusion. I have to think about that. Buried Alive is the slow man's Entomb. I don't really have a lot of threatening creatures, and 3 mana is a lot more than 1 mana. But again, it's just another way of getting the dragon straight from deck into the graveyard. Then we have Draw. This is, again, a good thing about adding red to this type of thing. Well, the dragon's red. But the pseudo Draw from Mono Red, the older style where you discard, is actually really good because you are discarding the dragon. So we have Faithless Looting, Wild Guess, and Tormenting Voice. These are not quite card advantage. These are more like card selection and quality selection. But the important part is I can discard something, including the dragon. The hardest thing about this, running this type of thing, is getting that dragon stuck in your hand and you can't get rid of it. And these help. Then we have some generic mono black draw. We have the Night's Whisper and the Sign in Blood, just lose 2, draw 2. Then we have Read the Bones, kind of same thing, a little bit more to scry. Skeletal Scrying is the new addition. It lets me just dig real deep. I don't really care about my life total sometimes in this deck, so going deep fast is helpful. Promise of Power is another new inclusion, where it's just a hard draw 5. 5 mana is a little steep. This may be on the chopping block if any newer, better draw spells come up. I was actually thinking about putting a Dark Deal in this deck, but since it's a -1 and it's also helping, sometimes you don't want to really help your opponents put stuff in their graveyard either. But Moonlight Bargain is fantastic. This is something that should have been in the initial deck list because it is a draw 5, but if I just so happen to see that dragon in the top 5, I can put it straight in the graveyard. It's instant speed, I can do it at the end of someone's turn as well. This is a fantastic card. To go with that Insidious Dreams Tutor, we have Reforge the Soul. I need a Wheel of Fortune for the deck. That is one of the very few cards I am still missing. But this is fantastic because I can essentially, with that Insidious Dreams, put this on top when I untap. Since I should reiterate, Insidious Dreams is, again, something that I can do at the end of an opponent's turn. Like at the end of turn, whenever I have 4 mana, I can then dump about 4 cards. And at the end of the video, I'll show you what 4 optimal targets would be. One of these could be this. I'll just put this as the first card I draw. I then just draw all the cards I tutored for, essentially giving me the perfect hand. Since this goes at end of turn, then I just need 2 mana to activate this, and my combo can be fixed with about 2 to 3 mana. Then that usually just nets a win. But Reforge is very important. Wheel of Fortune would be in here if I could get another. Wretched Confluence is new. It lets me return something from graveyard to hand, kill a creature, or draw up to 3 cards. I can choose the modes 3. The red Confluence is atrocious. This one is really good as just another instant speed draw card. And not quite draw, but card advantage. If I have gross amounts of mana, this can just recur a lot of spells. This is also fun to do in combo decks if you have a lot of cheap tutors. You can chain them together. You can Vampire Tutor for your Demonic Tutor, you can Demonic Tutor for another tutor, and you can use that tutor for this. Then once you have a lot of mana, you can cast this and you just bought back 3 to 4 tutors. Let's go on to the removal. This deck has to stay alive some way, shape, or form. So to do that, we have some generic removal and other answers for the opponents. Innocent Blood is one of my favorite cards. This is great really early before I need to do anything. It mutually hits all opponents. Then we have Go for the Throat and Dismember, my 2 favorite target removals. I would have a Snuff Out in here, but I actually have a higher amount of non-basic lands. Anger of the Gods is fantastic early because it does exile scary early mana dorks and a lot of permanents. Exile is really good. Toxic Deluge is our 3-drop wipe, 4-drop wipe. Imps Mischief. I really don't know why this wasn't in my original list. I love this card. This is essentially not quite a misdirection because I lose life, but I can use this to destroy things like enchantments that I can't actually deal with. This can counter a counterspell by changing the target of the counterspell to Imps Mischief. Then Imps Mischief will resolve, the counter will then fizzle because it no longer has a target. This is here actually to protect the dragon. A lot of ways this deck just fails is when someone goes to kill the dragon or bounce the dragon. If I have this, I can change the target of that answer. So this has actually, from playtesting, saved me enormously, like just so many different times. I really wish Reverberates or there was a red version of a misdirection. But this is the only one that actually lets me just straight up change the target. Shunt, maybe? Nah, that's 3 mana. The fact that this is a 2 mana spell makes it really good. If you start creeping up to 3 mana, it becomes too expensive to go and back you up on the turn you're trying to combo. Then we have Vandal Blast for generic artifact or hate, and Exsanguinate. There is a Coffers in this deck, so it's just nice to have a backup win condition. And just Rakdos control and building up to this can just win. Now, again, I am playing with my theme. I love my Rakdos guild, if you haven't noticed by the giant stack of beautiful sleeves. But I am also playing with more thematic cards. So all these cards have the Rakdos watermark. We have a mutual, everyone or opponents discard 2 at random. And 2 damage, that's not important, but it's essentially a Hymn to Torok for all opponents. And this is good in multiplayer. Again, the reason this is made the deck, because that watermark, that's a 5-drop spell that normally would never see play. Rakdos Return, great in 1v1. And then we have Augur Spree, which is essentially a 3 mana costing removal. I'm not really going to pump a creature to attack in this deck. And then we have Dreadbore, which is actually pretty good. Planeswalker removal. Sorcery speed kind of sucks, but it's what we get. Then we have the Rakdos Charm, which is, again, actually pretty good. Exiling a graveyard at instant speed is great hate when people don't expect it. This can stop a token swarm or an infinite combo, and random artifact destruction at instant speed can also save you. Wrecking Ball, setting an opponent back a land is great. Not really. A Demon Fire, this, I actually did have a Starstorm in the deck as an instant speed spell to make use of my dragon. Every time I was about to combo off, I never had it, and I felt like I was always tutoring for a land instead of Starstorm. But if I don't have access to like my general for some reason, I can just use this to dome the opponent. It is an X spell that I can dome a creature or player. I could possibly exile it. Hellbent may happen, but most likely this is just to exile some annoying creature early game. We do have, again, there's 3 enchantments in the deck, well 4. You saw the reanimation enchantments. There is also Diabolic Certitude. That one is not a compatible enchantment with this type of combo. These are the 3 that can recur the dragon. One of them comes to play tapped. I can play this at instant speed, that's why it costs 1 more. But this is the oldie. This is one from Alpha Beta. This is the original one that just pulls it from graveyard to play. And again, if the enchantment goes away, the creature then goes back to the graveyard. Then we have a Phyrexian Arena. To be honest, after they've changed the mulligan rules to Vancouver, I've been thinking that the arenas aren't really good anymore. Because if you can't mulligan to one of these early game, it just really sucks seeing this like past turn 5. Like the demon, I think, can attack. The muse can block, but something like this, like it's the staple. If you don't see this early, it really sucks. This may end up actually being cut if I can find better draw spells, because I would rather have more cards immediately instead of waiting 2 turns to get 2 extra cards. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but just thoughts. Then of course we do have some artifacts. Let's go through these next. This is a deck I still don't have a lot of fetch lands in. I think I just have 1 because it's on color. But this still helps me sort out draws. There's a lot of tutors in the deck, so I can always kind of set up what's coming up next. The Expedition map is here for important lands. Yes, there is an Urborg and Coffers in this deck, but this will actually most likely get one of the win condition lands, like a Shivan Gorge. Scroll Rack is here because, again, I'm setting up specific cards. I'm playing a combo deck. Seeing exactly what is coming up can be very important, and getting rid of cards before I shuffle can also be very important. Then we have lots of ramp. We have my 2 favorites, the Soul Ring and Wayfarer's Baubles for turn 1. There's no Mana Crypt in here, sorry. These are 2 cards that I am trying to get more foil 7th edition ones of. My favorite 2 drops are the diamonds. The sad thing is these cannot help me fix color when my combo goes off, since they do come into play tapped. So technically for optimization, I could get something else like a Guardian Idol or some other 2-drop artifact that taps for color. Then we have a Talisman of Indulgence. I really don't want to have to use this to tap for color when my combo is going off because it will kill me. Then we have the Rakdos Signet, which will not kill me. We got our watermarks. Then we have these 2, which are just really bad. 3-drop artifact mana accelerants are terrible in my opinion, because you don't really want to be spending your 3rd turn doing more ramp in a non-green deck, especially in a combo deck that you want to go off as fast as possible. But they have that Rakdos watermark, so they made it in the deck. And I guess late game I could cycle this. That's not really good. Then we have the lands. There are currently 37 lands in the deck. Again, with the mulligan change, getting away from Partial Parish to Vancouver, I may go up to 38 or even 9. Depending on if they get more draw spells, like the quick, cheap draw spells that help you filter cards. I may keep it down low, I don't know. Again, in my last video, I completely just skimmed right over this. The quickest way to win in this deck is via your lands, because if your permanents are coming in and out of play, sure, you can bleed people with things like a Warstorm Surge or a Gary or whatever, but that's just not that good. In this style of deck, like, the lands are usually the hardest to deal with permanents, and these all come into play untapped. So I can actually use them mid-combo and kill people, so we don't technically go to a stalemate. Again, my permanents are coming in and out of play. I will be able to generate infinite mana, and I can do this combo with like a command tower and one of these lands as early as turn 2. So we have Shivan Gorge. It's just colorless legendary land. I pay 3 tap it. Does 1 damage to each opponent. Sensia Bloodhaul does taps for colorless. I can pay 5 to do 2 damage to a player. Then we have Piranha Marsh, which does come into play tapped, but it burns out an opponent for 1 damage every time it comes to play tapped. And we have some mana. We have the Ancient Tomb. A Temple of the False God is not really good enough for this deck, since I am trying to go off before I have 5 lands, ideally. Then we have the 2 mana producers. These are for late game. This will help us fix, but this one really won't do anything early. This is more or less a late game, go for that Exandrinate kind of thing. Then we have the colorful ones. The only fetch I believe in here, this is a slow land that may actually come out. I like getting 2-for-1 effects, so this may stay, I don't know. A command tower, again I really don't like this promo one, I'd rather have the Commander's Arsenal one, this looks better. Taint. Shadow Blood Ridge, this is one that I don't like seeing early because it does not tap for mana on turn 1. But this one does, it's a pain land. You're going to have to be careful with this one. During our combo, this will kill us if I am requiring this to get the mana, like colored mana. This one, although, just requires a basic. Come on now. Again, this is in here because someone gave me this. Did I get this new trade? I don't remember. I fell in love with this card. I don't remember how I got it. I think someone traded it to me. This does work with our combo because it re-enters the battlefield. What it does is it taps for colorless, or it taps for one of my colors. It just skips an untap. But if I am flickering my lands in and out of play, I don't really care about that. We have Graven Cairns for filter. Another tap land. This may come out since I may hopefully never need it. Temple tap land for scry, yeah. I would rather get rid of the creature land than the scry land. Then we have a Blood Crypt because Rakdos watermark. Rakdos Guildgate strictly should not be in the deck, but it has the watermark, so it's in the deck. Same thing with Carnarium. This can actually wreck me if someone interrupts my flicker combo a few times because I will have a lot of land return effects on the stack. And Rix Maddie, I cannot activate this during combo because it is sorcery speed only, but I mean it's kind of fun. It's just this is essentially a colorless land. I'm probably never going to activate this. I could tap it and essentially pay 4 because I'm losing it to put the dragon into my graveyard. Then we have 8 of each basic. We have the Guild Rakdos Mountains and the Guild Rakdos Swamps to go with my Rakdos deck. So yeah, this is the newest, most recent deck list for my Lyzolda. I feel fairly certain that this is the... Yeah, this is pretty much as I would hope the deck would be until they print new cards. I don't think I'm missing anything essential. But if you have any ideas or anything, yeah, let me know. Always welcome.